most beautiful land, from sea to shining sea. Every man, woman, child can be who we want to be, pursuing happiness and living the American dream. It's plain to see, you ain't got to ask me. You know what colors I fly? Red, white, and blue, till the day I die. You know what colors I fly? Oh yeah, yeah. Red, white, and blue, till the day I die. Everywhere I go, the good folks I meet, from the waitress at the diner to the kids playing down the street. To all of our servicemen, thank you for keeping us free. Life, liberty, pursuit of happiness, hell yeah, we're living free. It's plain to see, you ain't got to ask me. You know what colors I fly? Red, white, and blue, till the day I die. You know what colors I fly? Oh yeah, yeah. Red, white, and blue, till the day I die.
Good evening, and welcome to another Passionate Pachyderm Digital Media Group live stream broadcast. Tonight I'm going to have the hot seat, so you're going to be looking at me. Jen is not doing so well, so she's just going to feed me questions, and I'm just going to be the brutally honest pachyderm in the room. So, honey, if you want to introduce the title of the show.
Hey everybody, sorry you aren't seeing my face tonight, but you really don't want to, trust me. Tonight's stream is titled The Chronic Pain Patient Crisis as Seen Through the Eyes of Our Loved Ones, The Other Side of Pain. And with that, we're going to begin. What we're going to do is I have gotten several questions from people on Twitter, Facebook, and through passionate pachyderms, questions that pain patients thought would be interesting and would like Chuck's perspective on. And I've also added some of mine. And so we're going to, he hasn't seen any of these questions, so he's not at all prepared for the things that I'm going to ask him. I just want to let you all know that. So his answers are totally going to be off the cuff, and because we wanted to make sure that they were going to be as honest and forthright as possible. And his answers, I just want to preface this by saying, please don't take offense by anything that he might say. I don't take offense by the things that he might say. We feel it's very important for both of us to be honest with each other when it comes to my illness and my chronic pain condition. And so he's going to be brutally honest, and don't think for a second that means that he doesn't love and respect me, because nothing could be further from the truth. So with that, let's go ahead and get started.
Okay.
How long have you and your wife been together?
We've been together since 2001, and we got married in 2002. So we were together for about 8 months before we got married. And at that point, she was and still is a chronic pain patient, but not to the level of intensity that she currently is at.
Well, that was my next question, is how much of that time has your wife been a chronic pain patient? So,
well, she's been a chronic pain patient since I knew her, so I'm not some kind of, angel who weathered the storm or anything. I knew what I was getting into, when we got together and when we got married. So it wasn't something that came on suddenly or something that, we had 6 years of regular, normal marriage, and then all of a sudden the pain came about. So I knew what I was getting into, and I thought long and hard about it before I did get into this.
okay. During all that time, have you ever been concerned about her taking opiate pain medications?
I don't think there's been a time when I've seen anything other than you getting some relief. And I know it's not complete and total relief. It's not like when I have a headache and I take 2 Tylenol and an hour later my pain is gone. But I can tell when you take your medication that the level of intensity that you're feeling is quite a bit diminished. I've never seen you high. I've never seen you in a stupor. I've never seen you walk in a drugged out way or anything like that. You continue to drive. Everything that you do as far as walking and talking and all of that stuff, that has never changed from day one. So as the pain meds have increased a bit in the amount of it, it really hasn't changed anything as far as anybody's perception of you.
Have you ever been afraid that I might be an addict simply because I take pain medication every day and have for over 20 years?
There's nothing that I could point to that would ever lead me to believe that you're an addict at all. I've unfortunately been around addicts and addicts' families because of what I do, and there's absolutely no hint to that.
And you already answered the next question, is have you ever seen me behave in a way that concerned you due to my taking those medications?
Not at all. Never.
Okay. So on to the next line of questioning. What is your opinion of those like Andrew Kolodny, Dr. Drew, the media, and others who consider chronic pain patients to be nothing more than addicts in training, simply because they require opiate pain medications to treat, control, or relieve the debilitating persistent pain they're in caused by the often rare, incurable diseases and conditions they have.
Addict in training? Ooh, I wish I'd have thought that one up. What a catchphrase. What a buzz for the media. Addict in training. I can't believe that a medical professional would use those kind of words. And let me just start out by saying, for all of you chronic pain patients, addict in training, some of you people have been taking chronic pain meds for 2, 5, 10 years. If you're addicts in training, you suck at it. You're never going to make the team. If you go 10 years and you can't become an addict, give it up. It ain't happening. So addict in training? Nah, I don't think so. If this was, for example, a baseball team and they had the addicts team, you guys would never make the cut. So no. Addict in training, it may sound good for the media, but it's meaningless.
What would you say to them should they be listening tonight or come across this stream in the future?
I guess what I would like to say to them is, why are you so intent on being cruel to a segment of the population who often is so debilitated by their illnesses they can't fight back? Do you realize what a big bully you are and what a big stick you think you carry with the media, with the CDC, with the DEA and all of that, and all for no reason? You keep claiming that these chronic pain patients are addicts in training or they're addicts, but nothing could be further from the truth. The general population is more likely to be addicts than chronic pain patients. So get off your high horse. Instead of touting that they're addicts in training, why don't you actually do something to help them instead of bash them at every turn?
Thank you. What stands out in your mind as the most memorable event or time you've lived through as a spouse of a chronic pain patient?
There's kind of been a number of episodes. One thing I think, like most chronic pain patients, Jen deathly fears going to an emergency room. I think she would have to be unconscious for me to drag her to an emergency room, and if she woke up in the emergency room, I wouldn't even want to be within swinging range because chances are she would deck me. Now, that being said, it doesn't mean that we have not had to go that route, but fortunately we were able to get what we needed without them calling us chronic pain, drug seekers, and it was actually for something different other than pain, because they kept asking about her pain, and she said, no, I'm not here about the pain, I'm here about this other issue. Now, that being said, I remember one day distinctly, I work about 20 minutes away from my home, and I got a call from Jen, which most often we text, but every once in a while we call. She calls, and she says, honey, I'm in so much pain, I can't stand it, I need to come home. So let me tell you, that 20 minutes becomes like 6 hours when you're driving. And I'm trying to drive fast, but not drive fast enough that I get a ticket, trying to be safe without letting the million things that's running through my head affect my ability to get home safely. So I get home, come in the door, she's on the couch, our 2 poodles are tucked up tight against her. Now that's a big thing in our household. I can often tell how Jen is doing just by the way the girls are with her. If they are tucked up tight against her and they aren't moving, that means she's having a rough day, a bad day. So I get home and, I talk to her and we determine, what's going on. And she's telling me the pain is so bad she can't hardly stand it. So we kind of came up with a plan, and a lot of it just was me being there, calming her down, helping her breathe, letting her squeeze my hand, letting her dig her nails into the palm of my hand, which almost bled, but that tells you just the intensity that was there. And it was just, I think the fact that she knew I was there allowed her to just kind of get back to where she could get on top of the pain again and kind of beat it back. I kind of look at her pain almost like a balloon. Now, at times that balloon gets pretty big, and when that balloon gets big, that's bad pain. That's real bad pain. Now, sometimes she's able to squeeze the air out of that balloon, shrink it back down. Sometimes she does it with pain meds and, the typical yoga, mind over matter, those sort of things. And sometimes it just gets the best of her, and then it's like a balloon waiting to explode because it's about to become overinflated. And I think at that point, that's when she just needs some reassurance from me. Yes, I'm there. Everything will be better. We'll just work through it. And, we work on breathing. She closes her eyes, and we just kind of try this trick or that trick until we can actually get it down to where it's a little bit manageable. And it seems like once we can start squishing the air out of that balloon, then we're on kind of the downhill slope, and things get better from there.
I think along with that, that's a really good analogy. I think along with that, as you help me let some of the air out of that balloon when it gets blown up tight like that, it also allows those pain medications to do what they need to do. Often when the pain is that bad, I'm almost fighting against the medicine. And so if I can be settled even for a few minutes, it gives that medication a chance to kick in. And once it does, then it gives me that much more control to get it back down and to get on top of it. So.
And I think even though I feel like I'm doing nothing for that, I think in Jen's mind, she feels that it's kind of now 2 against 1 with the pain, that both of us are working towards it. And I think that's just enough, like she said, to give her time to get the pain meds working and to kind of, take the air out of that balloon.
Okay, thanks. As a spouse of a chronic pain patient with almost 20 years experience, including during my 8-year diagnostic stage, what has had the most profound impact on you?
I guess the most profound impact would probably be just the wide variety of doctors that we came across, and the different responses that they had, from the arrogance of whatever you've got, I can find it. It doesn't matter what it is. I'm the best shit hot specialist you've ever seen, and whatever you got, I will find it. Trust me. There's no doubt in my mind. And, a couple months later, they failed. They've tried all these tests and everything. And then there was some of them that, bless their heart, they looked at Jen and I and said, just because I can't give a name to what you have, Jen, and what she has, Chuck, that doesn't mean she doesn't have it. It just means medically we have not been able to put a name on it, and we have not been able to, to figure out how to cure it. So just because I can't tell you what it is, I don't ever want you to feel that pain is not there and that you're not having these symptoms, because nothing could be further from the truth. And I appreciated, and I know Jen appreciated, that type of honesty. Now, before things got really bad with the CDC dropping down the amount of pain meds that a person could take in a day to the 90 milligram equivalent of morphine, it was interesting. Along the way, we've had a number of different doctors that were Jen's pain specialists. Some of them were very good. Some of them, I think, liked to hear themselves talk and didn't listen to us. We had one that assured us that within 6 months she would be on high doses of methadone, which never happened. In fact, methadone isn't even one of the things that we're ever likely to consider. But his big thing was everybody who's suffering chronic pain should be on methadone. Well, after we saw that doctor the one time, never saw him again, we kind of followed his career because of his arrogant attitude and everything. Well, it turns out he lost his license to practice in the state that we were in at that time. But as often happens, he just moved to another state and got licensed and just continued mistreating patients. So I guess the medical merry-go-round we've been on, which I think most of you can relate to, there was some wonderful people along the way, and there's some people that just cause you to cringe at every turn.
Right. We went through 157 different doctors in 22 states.
Yeah. It finally got to the point now, and we've finally become comfortable with saying this to the doctor. When a doctor says to us, we want to run this test, we've got two criteria. The first one is, what is that test going to tell you? And the second thing is, after that test tells you that, is there anything that you can do for it? Because if the first one is, well, we want to rule something out, we're not real fond of that. And if the second one is, well, then we can give it a name, but we can't do anything about it, and we're just like, no, if you can't do anything about it, I just at that point, there's nothing that we need to know down that direction.
Thanks. What is the most challenging severe pain that never seems to stop and will only continue to get worse as time passes?
Our marriage and our experiences. So the things that I say, some of you aren't going to be able to relate to, and that's fine. The biggest challenge that I have, or the biggest thing that I wish I could change, is the ability to make a difference in her pain level. Now, there's things that I can help her with, and I can, do massages and stretch muscles and do things like that. But I'm talking, I would like to be able to make a serious dent in her pain. I would gladly do that. Now, obviously it's easy for me to say that because I know there's no way for the pain to be transferred. But when you see somebody that is as bright, intelligent, funny, trying at times, and you watch them have days where I think they could seriously take on the entire world and win, and then you watch them have days where to squish an ant might be kind of a challenge. And just to see those differences and realize that no matter what, it's the same person. So there's the good days, the highs, the bad days, the low with her, because I know in my life, whether she's having the best of days or worst days, my life is better because she's in it. So that's my way of dealing with it and getting through those sort of things. But I want to say something right off the bat. If you're getting into a relationship with somebody that is a chronic pain patient and you have any doubts about whether you're going to be able to go for the long haul, bail out now, because the worst thing that could happen is to have that person feel that you're always going to be in their corner, that they can depend on you no matter what. And a couple years down the line, you say to them, well, I'm sorry, this was more than I bargained for, I'm out of here. So if you're going to bail right away. Yeah, it's going to hurt, but it's going to hurt a whole lot less than you bailing in 5 or 6 years.
Oh, exactly. I mean, bailing 5 or 6 years down the line when they've come to depend on you and they really need you is going to be a huge, profound loss that they may not get over, as opposed to if you admit that you're not a strong enough person to walk that line with them for the duration and walk away in the beginning. That's the best thing that you can do for them.
And let me clarify too, that doesn't make you a bad guy or it doesn't make you a bad woman. It just makes you a human being who's honest. Not everybody is able to deal with the things that we deal with, and we're not saints. You know, don't get me wrong. Don't think, oh, you know, Chuck is such a saint for putting up with this. We just have the type of personalities where we can do that. Some people don't. And if you don't, you're better off admitting to this other person, you know, hey, I'd really like to help you out, but that's just not the way I'm wired. It's just, you're never going to get from me what you need, and I'd rather walk away now than walk away later.
I think that's excellent advice. How do you handle the frustration which comes from the current climate surrounding chronic pain patients and their inability to obtain adequate treatment for their pain?
Well, it's a real frustration, and I try to do what I do, and a lot of it is behind the scenes. And with these live streams, we've gone to Washington, D.C. to talk to congressmen and senators about this issue. But I guess what really frustrates me is when I see the difference before the severe tapering started and after the severe tapering started. I wish I could have the people who are making these decisions have to live that kind of life, because if they realized how profoundly they have affected these individuals, there's no doubt in my mind that they would reverse what they're doing. But unfortunately, they're believing the media who says, you know, it's really not causing that much of a problem. Now, that's nice for the media to think about that, but if they looked at the actual statistics, nothing could be further from the truth.
I think one of my issues with all that is that they're not. And we've gone through the studies, talked to the different experts. They are not consulting pain patients. They're not asking pain patients. They're not asking pain doctors. They're not asking the people who treat these patients. I mean, how they can come up with all these different policies and rules and laws and thought processes without ever bothering to speak to us, those who are going through it, is beyond me. I just, that it flabbergasts me. Anyway, let's go on. Let's see. Have you ever become so overwhelmed or frustrated that you felt you just couldn't deal with it anymore and wanted to leave? If not,
I guess, you know, it goes back to what I said before. Every day with you in my life is better than a day without you in my life. So that helps me right there. Have there been times when I've been overwhelmed by things? Oh, absolutely. There's no doubt in my mind. I am one, though, that I take solace and comfort in music, and I have a couple of go-to country songs, and I'm not going to name them because it doesn't matter, that I will listen to kind of get my head back into the fixer personality, as well as Jen. So, you know, we get a problem and we always want to fix it. And sometimes there isn't a fix for it. And I guess that's when, you know, I go to my music, I go to prayer, you know, and I've had some pretty terse talks with the Lord. and really question him as far as how he could do that to someone that I love that much, and how he could do that to someone who is as wonderful a person as she is. And while I can't say that he's spoke to me directly, sometimes it's just a sign that you're driving down the road and you see something, and or you hear something on the radio and you go, okay, I got the message, I'm over my pity party, let's continue on.
What you're saying brings to mind, someone asked me at one point how I dealt with what I deal with every day, how I could stand it. And this person just happened to have a profoundly disabled daughter. She's my best friend in the whole world, and her daughter became disabled due to some seizures that they never did figure out how they came about. But after her baby was 2 months old, these seizures started and continued throughout her entire life. And my friend said, my life, what I have to deal with my daughter is nothing compared to what you have to deal with. And I was just blown away by that, because I saw her situation as so much more challenging and difficult and in need of help and understanding than me. And so we continued talking, and I said, well, I look at it this way. Just like Jesus had a cross to bear that day before his crucifixion, he had to drag that cross up those hills and through the city and through the throngs of people with the bad guys beating on him and whipping him and everything else along the way. He had to keep pulling and toting that cross up that hill, and knowing full well what was coming at the end. And I said, now, please don't misunderstand. I don't liken myself to Jesus. I'm nowhere near that good. But I do believe that as human beings, each and every one of us have crosses to bear. They are our crosses to bear alone. And we have to carry them up those hills and mountains all on our own. Now, to be fair, some crosses are much, much heavier and difficult to tote than others. But make no mistake about it, there isn't a human being alive that doesn't have their own cross to bear. Mine is difficult. There's no doubt about it. And I have Chuck to help me bear that cross, and he has me to help him bear his. But there are so many people out there whose crosses are so much heavier than mine. And we all, I think, have to just look at it that way, that we may not know how heavy another person's cross is, but we just have to accept that each of us have our own crosses, and it's up to us to carry them through our lives and up those hills and down those mountains. Okay, let's see. The last question is, looking forward, how do you envision the future with your wife in the event the pendulum fails to swing back in the direction of chronic pain patients being treated adequately with whatever meds and modalities work best for them?
Well, I always, remain the eternal optimist. I think, like most people, when you're in this situation, you have to hope for a better future. And I think we all hope that somehow there will be some magical discovery of a pain reliever with, get the question, and I think it's a 50-50 shot right now whether the pendulum will swing back the other way or not. We've got some good people giving some good arguments and getting some good information and stuff, but boy, once that pendulum swings, it's hard to stop it and get it swinging the other way. I guess like everything else, all we can do, and it's going to sound trite, is we can take it one day at a time and figure out how to deal with that day. And if that's too overwhelming, then maybe we'll take it a half a day at a time or an hour at a time and just try and create whatever good moments or good hours or good days that we.
I mean, just like one of my sayings is you can't win if you don't enter. That's sort of my fight theme, I guess, or fighting words. You have to keep trying. You have to keep entering, and you can't ever stop fighting, no matter how bleak or dark it may seem, like, or futile it may seem. The only time you truly lose is when you stop fighting. We never know what's around the next corner. We never know what's going to happen an hour from now or a day from now or a month from now. And no matter how bad things are, if you can get through this minute, this day, this month, it could all change. And sometimes that's the only way to get through those situations. But I guarantee this will change. For all of the chronic pain patients who are listening and their spouses or significant others, this will change. It has to. More and more we are seeing acute pain patients joining our groups and our numbers because they went and had surgery done, or they've had to go to the emergency room due to an accident or a procedure or something like that, and they're experiencing the insanity that has become reality when it comes to treating people's pain. And people are waking up and they're starting to understand that this is a real problem. And so I have to believe right down to my very toes that this is a temporary thing. And as long as we keep fighting and we keep screaming and making noise, eventually we will be heard. So I'd like to thank all of you for joining us tonight. I know this wasn't our typical hour and a half long stream, but we're really making an effort to keep these a little bit shorter. If anybody has any questions, there are a few people in the YouTube chat. I don't see anybody's raised any questions, but we'll just give you a couple minutes to type something out if you do have any questions or comments that you'd like to share. And then after that, we'll just go ahead and close this. So, Chuck, is there anything you'd like to add?
Yeah, one of the things that I wanted to touch upon is don't mourn what you've lost. And what I mean by that is everyone here who's listening, who's a chronic pain patient or is married to a chronic pain patient or has a chronic pain patient member in their family, has lost something. And what I mean by that is, now I'm one that I love to go for hikes in the woods, walking around in the woods, do fishing, things like that. Well, that's not something the two of us can share anymore. So instead of mourning the loss of being able to walk in the woods, I look at it as I've got far fewer opportunities now to get a tick and to get Lyme disease. So while I'm not walking in the woods, I'm also less susceptible to get Lyme disease than I was before. And we look for things that we can share together, and maybe they weren't things that we did before, and maybe there's things that we've tried that we go, oh man, we're never doing that again, this sucked, and that's okay. That's part of living and growing. So maybe instead of building a shed in the backyard, you build a crossword puzzle, or you cook something, or you do something that's a little bit less of an activity. It doesn't mean that your life is that much less. It just means that your life is just that much different.
Okay, well, I guess that's about it. I would like to thank Kelly, Shasta, Michelle, Jack, Donna, and of course, my significant other, Chuck, for joining me tonight for this stream. And I hope you all have enjoyed it. Please tell your friends and followers and I don't know, whatever else there is out there, to join us for these. We ask that you please hit that like button, the thumbs up button, because that helps other people find these live streams. And so maybe it can help them or their loved ones. And we look forward to talking and seeing you all again very soon. Until then, I am Passionate Pachyderms, the brutally honest elephant in every room, and Chuck and I, we tell it like it is.
Good night, everybody.